The starting position for the deep squat is a bar held behind the head with shoulders flexed and abducted and elbows locked out straight. The head should be kept straight and facing forward. Trunk should be straight and facing forward. Feet should be positioned slightly wider than shoulder width apart, with toes pointing straight ahead. Heels should be kept on the ground throughout the movement. Observe how the head and trunk in the subject on the left flex forward more than in the subject on the right. The movement in the subject on the right also appears more controlled. The starting position of the active straight leg raise is subject lying supine with a small plank or rolled up towel under both knees. Head should be on the ground, arms by their side with palms facing up. The subject is then instructed to raise one leg, keeping their ankle dorsiflexed and the knee straight. The bar is held from the medial malleolus at right angles to the floor. Note the differing positions of the bar in the two subjects shown here. The starting position of the inline lunge is feet in line with each other, toes pointing forward, trunk upright, bar held vertical behind the back. During the lunge, the trunk will remain upright, toes should remain pointing straight, the front heel remains on the floor, and the front knee should not advance over the toes. Differences can be seen in these two subjects, particularly at the knees and feet. The starting position for the push-up is starting in prone, hands shoulder width apart with thumbs level with chin and fingers pointing forward. Legs should be together and straight. The push-up should be performed with the body lifted as a rigid unit. There should be no sagging of the lumbar spine during the test, and elbows should be fully extended. In these two shots, the subject on the right cannot perform the movement as a rigid unit, and sagging in the lumbar spine is clearly present. For the shoulder mobility test, the distance between the wrist and middle finger is measured. The subject makes a fist with each hand. One shoulder is maximally adducted and internally rotated behind the back, while the other shoulder is then maximally abducted and externally rotated to meet it. The distance between the two fists is then measured. This distance should not be greater than the original hand measurement. The subject on the left shows extreme mobility in the shoulders in comparison to normal ranges in the subject on the right. In this clip, the subject on the left shows a clear lack of shoulder mobility. For the hurdle step test, the hurdle height is adjusted so that it is level with the subject's tibial tuberosity. The starting position is feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing forwards. The bar is held behind the neck across the shoulders. The subject then steps slowly over the hurdle with one foot, touches the heel on the ground and then returns to the original position. During the test, the hips, knees and ankles should remain in a straight line. There should be little movement in the lumbar spine or pelvis, and the bar should remain parallel to the ground throughout. From the front angle, it appears that both subjects perform the movement correctly. However, the side view allows us to see excessive trunk movement in the subject on the left. For the Rotary stability test, the starting position has the subject on hands and knees with the 2x6 board between the hands and knees. The shoulders, hips and knees should be in 90 degrees flexion with the ankles dorsiflexed. The subject flexes the shoulder and extends the ipsilateral hip and knee at the same time so that they clear the floor by approximately 6 inches. The raised upper and lower limbs and torso should all remain parallel with the board. The shoulders and knees are then brought together so that the elbow and knees touch. They then return to the starting position and the movement is performed for 3 repetitions. This clip allows analysis of the movement from both angles. It is clear that the asymmetric trunk stability in both sagittal and transverse planes is challenged. For the single leg squat, the subject begins with feet shoulder width apart, toes pointing forward. A bar is held behind the neck across the shoulders. The subject squats down as far as possible on one leg, holding the other above the ground in knee flexion, and rises back to the original position. The pelvis should not drop on either side, and the trunk should remain upright and straight. Hips, knees and ankles should remain in line with each other from the frontal view. This clip shows the subject on the left flexing forward at the head and trunk, while the subject on the right maintains good trunk position. In this clip, lateral movement of the trunk in the subject on the left can be observed. The Nordic hamstrings exercise is a 2-person exercise where the partner fixes the subject at the ankles, while the subject attempts to resist a forward falling motion as slowly as possible until the chest reaches the ground, using their hamstrings to maximize loading in the eccentric phase. To return to the starting position, the subject pushes forcefully with their hands to minimize concentric contraction. The load is increased as the subject can withstand the forward fall for longer. Load can also be added by partner pushing at the back of the shoulders.